I'm going to call this meeting to order. Let's see. So I'm going to paste oh, I guess I can't paste the agenda into the chat because of because it won't be recorded, I guess. So let me just say that tonight's agenda includes a review of the minutes. However, when I looked on the G Drive, I did not see minutes. I did not see minutes. And so I apologize for that. I will look into it. And I honestly don't know if we're going to have, more than one more meeting. I just don't know at this point. We might, if we're lucky, we might be able to just have a short meeting, or a couple short meetings. We'll see. I hope so. Um, so anyway, so the rest of the agenda is response and follow up, brief updates, which I don't actually have any. Just to say that the next item on the agenda is important: the response and follow up to the Board of Selectmen discussion and the decision. Then community outreach, any additional items that people want to discuss, and a wrap up. So did folks get to watch the Board of Selectmen meeting the other night by any chance?
Yes.
You did, okay. And Mary Jude did. James, did you? No, I can't hear you, but for some reason, you're off mute, but for some peculiar reason, I still can't hear you. Hi, Victor.
I actually attended the meeting.
Oh, I wondered if that was you back there, Elizabeth.
It was.
Okay, I wondered. Great, good. And I know Will was there. So, James, I think I might have your name down now. Socorifus. Is that correct? Oh, good. Finally. Thank you. Socorifus. Okay, got it. All right, so all righty. Well, I'm glad that at least a couple of you or three of you or so were able to listen in. And I wanted to get people's any thoughts in particular people had.
I didn't get to watch it. Can someone summarize what happened?
Well, you know what I could do? I could show you I could kind of briefly go over the presentation I gave. Would that be useful
Sure.
or not? Okay, let me see if I can get that to share. I had a little trouble with Zoom tonight, but let's see if I can get that to share. Hang on, it's not behaving itself. Hang on a sec. All right, so. All right, let's see if I can get this. Zoom, okay. Oh, Peter's joining, good. Okay. Hi, Peter. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just briefly go over what.
Hello.
Hi there. I'm just briefly going to go over the presentation for the folks who weren't able to be there. So at the meeting the other night. So let me just put this in slideshow quickly and talk through it a little bit. So I showed this map on the title slide because I wanted people to see the challenge that we had with, roughly a quarter of the town being town of Worcester, the watershed, and another quarter being the Commonwealth of Massachusetts state forest, et cetera, town forest. Lots of town-owned property in addition to that, some Audubon land, and protected space, and any number of places that were off limits, limiting us to trap rock and similar and similar land up in the northwest corner, and then a lot in the center of town. So, all right. I explained the requirements of the MBTA Communities Act. Explained our charge and what we were supposed to do. Talked about when we were established, when we first met. Talked about the dream team, including all of you. Explained who everyone was. Talked about some of the considerations we discussed: minimizing overall impact on the town, minimizing traffic, avoiding zoning over existing neighborhoods, and impact on infrastructure. So, talked about our process, um, talked a little bit about the GIS, our Holden's GIS, and the MBTA CA maps, and the fact that the MBTA excluded areas are not identical necessarily that don't contain necessarily all of the restrictions that our zoning laws do. So, explain our reasons for our parcel selection. The fact that Trap Rock is a larger site and probably a more long-term project because of the infrastructure issues there, et cetera. Talked about how we emphasized alternate routes quite a bit. That in each of these sites, there people had alternate routes to get into Worcester or to get to the highway, etc. Um, Halsted explained that it has existing multifamily housing, and Reservoir Street and Bailey Road explained that again people can use alternative routes. So I showed the maps. There's your setback, Al. um, and the yeah, I showed each of them 3 maps that Ron Barron had put together. Thank you, Ron. And then talked about the number of acres on each parcel. Actually, this must be a slightly different version because I ended up, according to Ron's calculations, we ended up, oh wait, no, I have it right here. 28 buildable acres. Yes, 28 buildable acres. We weren't able to do 30 acres. We had to do 28 because of the way the site worked out on Ron's model. And then so I reallocated 11 to Halsted and 11 to Reservoir and Bailey Road. And I assumed that the committee would not be bothered by those very minor deviations from what we had decided on. Then I talked about the process. First, it was submitted to the Board of Selectmen on Monday. That was that meeting. Then we have to put together a plan for public outreach and education. Then there will be a planning board public hearing and request for approval. There will be a planning board. The planning board will put out publicity about it 2 weeks before their meeting on December 9th. Then I said, assuming it makes it through the planning board, we have to seek final Board of Selectmen approval and then seek approval at town meeting. So I just wanted to show them how the process worked. So that was pretty much it. Any questions about that? No? Okay. So that was the presentation I gave. I think it was pretty well received. I will say that there were concerns raised. Well, actually, let me back up a second and ask all of you. What were your thoughts about the presentation and about how the discussion went? Any thoughts?
Well, from my point of view, I was a little bit disappointed, although not surprised, that
Mm-hmm.
one of your groups still seems to be putting forth what let's say is less than candid ideas about MBTA zoning. One example I can cite
Uh-huh.
is just talking about infrastructure and asks if the town can handle upgrades that we need to do to our water and sewer. Well, we all know that the town is not obligated to upgrade our water or our sewer.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, one of the reasons for some of the sites that I favored was that they either have no water and sewer or have water at most,
Mm-hmm.
and therefore it would be most difficult to develop.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I think we need to stress as we go forward, because
Mm-hmm.
let's be honest, if these zones are created, and I think we all understand that by law they're going to have to be created. I think the case against the town of Milton pretty much proved that.
Mm-hmm.
So the horses are kind of left the barn about whether we pass this or not. The question is where we pass it.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't get around traffic. If these zones are built in 5 years or in 500 years, there's going to be the traffic, there's going to be the impact on schools. But what we can say is that we pick sites that are, let's say, less than economically feasible to develop, specifically because of the lack of utilities, and therefore the likelihood of them being fully developed might never come about. I think that's one of our better selling points, frankly.
Okay. All right. Other reactions.
I
Elizabeth,
didn't truly,
oh, go ahead, Mary Jo.
understand the comment from a member of the board about bringing alternate locations to town meeting. so that there was not just one thing that would be voted up or voted down.
Right.
We discussed the strategy on this group, and I understand that the board can take it or leave it, but I don't, it feels chaotic to me
Mhm.
to bring unknown different alternatives where we had a chore to go through and figure out what were the excluded areas on the state map to do all the
Mhm.
work that we did and not just look at a map and pick other places and bring them before town meeting. So I'm just as a procedural question, I'm not quite sure going forward how that's going to shake out
Mhm.
and how and how those questions will be asked about. Well, how is this, what is this warrant going to look like? And I appreciated the conversation about the timing and the drafting of the warrant article, but it just kind of sort of threw me for a loop that we spent all this time coming up with alternatives, and now the point was, well, let's get some alternatives other than what the
Mhm.
committee came up with. Again, deferring entirely to the board, asking a process question of how's that going to work.
Right. Right. Peter, do you want to chime in there? Peter, can you hear us?
Oh, okay, I'm off. The answer is I don't know. Um, I, that remains to be seen. I don't know if there's enough time. I don't know if the Board of Selectmen would vote on something that could be proposed. Like, again, this is a working group, so it's only advisory. Whatever you give to the Board of Selectmen is advisory, so they could theoretically take it and throw the whole thing away and do their own, or they could alter it if they so chose to vote on what they're sending over to the planning board, etc. If someone wants to make an alternate motion, that would have to pass, obviously, the majority of the select board. And then it would have to go to, I believe it would have to go to the planning board, and I don't know that time constraints and legal requirements would allow that to happen based on the planning board schedule. So that's
Mhm.
another question. I mean, there's all sorts of possibilities. There could be a citizen petition, I suppose, if a selectman wanted to do it,
Mm.
presenting something, but I'm not sure what force and effect that would have, since it does need to have planning board approval as well. I don't know if you filed the citizen petition, if that would automatically go to the planning board anyway.
Mm.
Or if you filed the citizen petition saying something like, in the alternate, if the plan presented does not pass, would you be interested in a non-binding question, would you be interested in the following plan, X, Y, and Z? You could do that, I suppose, and it would have, obviously it would be non-binding, but it would guide us toward the annual town meeting if we had to do this over again. So there's a number of possibilities. And there's a number of legalities that probably need to be answered that I don't necessarily have the answer to, because this is very uncharted.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of hurried up to make a decision last week because we felt we needed to put this on the agenda for the February 23rd meeting, and there, with the timelines, the meeting dates for the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board, the December 9th Planning Board meeting, um, 2 weeks before which this needs to be advertised. Um, I'll make it tough to, basically makes it really tough for anything else to be proposed. I mean, that same person raised a lot of concerns about Dawson. I had a concern about Dawson as well. I had reached out to Peter about it. The concern was, are we going to have too many kids in Dawson? And Peter, you had said that, because one of the sites is the Halsted site. And at the current Halsted site, there are very, very few kids. Um, it's apartments, and the likelihood, and um, so you mentioned, Peter, that we get maybe 5 kids a year or a handful of kids every year from the Halsted site, a very small number. Now, theoretically, I suppose, and I wish that Scott Carlson were here tonight. It would be really helpful to have him here. Um, but um, whether a different type of housing would be built there, I don't know. And of course, there are height restrictions there. all across town, the planning board can enforce. And so, and there may be other rules that I'm not familiar with, other zoning rules that they could enforce um, that could limit the type of housing that could be there. Um, so the planning board rules are fairly strict in terms of, I know in terms of height. I'm trying to think, I had written that down at some point. It was like, I wanted to say off the top of my head, it was like the buildings can be no more than 35 to 40 feet height or so in height or something along those lines, something very close to that.
Two and a half stories, basically.
Yeah, 2.5 stories. So you're not talking about really, really big apartments, right? You're not talking about really, really big apartments. So, or condos if you did condos, or townhouses. So, that's an unanswered question. That's an unanswered question. So, um, I don't know what people's thoughts are about Dawson, given all that.
Sorry, I just want to, James, looks like James is trying to speak, and we're
Oh,
not hearing your
not
audio
hearing you,
still.
James. Oh dear. Let's see if I can do anything about that. Huh. I really, yeah, gosh. And we can't use, if he types into the chat and then I repeat what he said, can we make that work?
The, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I selected every option. It was the last one. Go figure. Um, so if the concern is regarding would all of these districts be in the same elementary school zone? I apologize. I did not watch the meeting.
No, the Trap Rock site is in the Davis Hill zone.
So, I mean, if this is not going to be developed tomorrow, I mean, what's the likelihood of the town of Holden being able to remap where the kids are going to school down the line? Like, I'm not expecting them to pull kids out of one school where all their friends are and go to another school, but down the line in 3 years before the kids even go to school, could that be altered to make more people happy?
I think redistricting is always going to make some people unhappy. But, people, and Peter, tell me if you disagree, but I think over time people kind of get used to it, for lack of a better term. I think the major issue is siblings, families with siblings who want you got a fifth grader and a first grader in the same school, and the family of course wants them to go to the same school that the older sibling went to, but I mean, I think that's a short-term concern. And you could always, I mean, I don't want to speak for the school district, but or for the town on this, but you could always sort of grandparent any siblings in or something. I don't know. There could be a way. I don't know. So Peter, I don't know if you've any thoughts about that.
Redistricting always brings a lot of resistance. This particular superintendent is open to exploring that possibility. I know the prior didn't want to touch it, and most don't want to go anywhere near it. Like I said, it's a sort of a third rail, but I don't know what would be there. Now, obviously, Dawson is particularly touchy about it because they're very tight when it comes to their current student population. They're
Right.
bursting, as we know. That's why they have modular. So
Right.
so it will definitely be an issue.
Mhm.
Both of the other zones feed into Dawson, as you know. So I guess it remains to be seen.
Right. Right. Yes. Um, I mean, and of course, there is this outstanding issue of whether we need a new wing on a school or a new school altogether. A fifth and sixth grade school. Both of those have been discussed. Um, my sense is that currently those issues are on hold just because right now we have to get through the Prop 2.5 discussion. um, I don't know. Yeah, and we have not on the Board of Selectmen discussed, when we want to think about that issue. But I mean, my thought is that that is, that completion of any development is, it, probably and those of you who know more about construction tell me, but it's probably at least 5 years down the road, if not longer. And Al, you might be, and as you mentioned the infrastructure issues, Al. Do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, that's why I'm waiting. I asked, well, as you know, Linda, I asked Nick Schwartz directly his estimate of how many new dwelling units could be added to the existing sewer system. And I think that's where we can hang our hat to a great extent when we get that answer. I mean, um, I knew the answer as of 20 years ago. We were closing in on capacity. Now there have been some issues with the metering of Holden sewage, but the fact remains there is a limit in the main sewers, the Holden Rutland trunk sewer, as it were, and that's a physical limit. It's not something that can be litigated, negotiated, or any other gated. It simply is.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that we're getting very, very close to that. We
Mm-hmm.
still have some, I'm sure, people who have paid their sewer assessments for past projects, but have yet to connect and therefore have a right to. And if we can come back, I'm pretty sure we can get an answer that's much less than 750 available dwelling units. How
Mm-hmm.
many, I don't know, but that's something that would be nice to have in our pocket when this issue comes up.
Good point. That's a good point. Well, hopefully he'll get back about that issue soon. So anyway,
Sorry, Linda, can I just
yes.
add one thing? We had been asked at one point to look at um, if there was any data we could find on the number of students that are generated by apartment housing. We didn't have that data ourselves, but we did find a group called RKG Associates, which has done a lot of work in Massachusetts, and they did a meta study of a lot of their plans. And what they estimated was that the in Massachusetts, apartment buildings tend to generate one student per 4 to 8 units of apartment housing. So, just doing a back of the envelope calculation, if you combined the two smaller sites and they were built out to their maximum capacity on this, which they're not likely to be, but
Mhm.
if they were built out, you'd be looking at 42 to 84 new students over the lifetime of once that is generated in that district. It's not a lot. It's not a huge number. It's not if that's based on what their estimates are for how many children are generally in these apartment buildings. Because again, when you're talking about apartment buildings, they're building a lot of smaller units. They're not really building family-sized housing. People have a tendency to live in the apartment building, and then when they have a family, they move to somewhere else. They buy an apartment. They don't, or they buy a house. They go somewhere where they can afford to have a bigger space. So
Mhm.
it is definitely something that we could consider bringing up because it's significantly less from what they were able to see student generation with apartment buildings than it is for single family housing, even though it is such a large number on paper of actual units.
So 42 to 84 over the lifetime. When you say over the lifetime, how many years would that be?
No, I mean like the lifetime of by the time it got built out. So if you have So if however long it took to get built to maximum capacity, so say the maximum capacity is 174 units on one parcel,
Mm-hmm.
you're not necessarily going to get one development that's going to generate all 174 units
Mm-hmm.
in one go. Maybe you'll have a phased development where it'll take, they'll have some 1 year, it'll phased, you'll have a phase two 5 years from now. They're not necessarily going to be built out to maximum capacity all in one go. That's what I meant by that.
Oh, I see. Okay. So any idea how, let's say how many kids, per year could we expect? Right now, Peter has told me that it would be somewhere in the range of 5 or something like that. Do you know how that works out to on an annual
No, well,
basis?
that's just the total number of like per students per unit they were able to estimate.
Oh, okay.
I don't have any information on how that would break out for every single year.
Okay. And yeah, I think can you put that on the hard drive or the G drive rather?
Yeah, there's several studies that they had, and I had a couple of slides from a presentation that they had given that I can add to a folder in the G drive.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. Alrighty. So, all right, any other thoughts about Dawson that people might have? All right. So, Elizabeth. are you still there? I can't see you, so.
I am. I apologize on a couple counts. I on the Zoom app, I cannot figure out how to get my camera on. I can do it on Teams, but for some reason, I have yet to master it on Zoom. And then also, I had to back out for a good 3 or 4 minutes because the audio, for some reason, for me, I couldn't understand Al when he started to talk or Mary Jude. So I missed probably some really key commentary about the meeting. So I don't want to repeat stuff that's already been said. I was going to ask if it came up what one of the select board members mentioned about the strategic nature of the Dawson issue, and that there would be likely a lot of Dawson parents at
Mhm.
that meeting. I don't want to reiterate it. Did that come up yet in this group?
Um, that piece of it didn't come up. The discussion about Dawson came up when we talked about how, it is that apartments have typically have many fewer kids than single family homes, and that there are apartments there now, and we can't guarantee, I guess, that there'd be apartments in the future. They could be condos or something, but um, and and the basically the height limitation is about 2.5 stories.
Right, okay, well, that I did catch. I mean, I was able to get back on in time to hear all that. I
Mhm.
just, I thought that was kind of an interesting set of comments about the possibility that if Dawson parents in particular are going to be worried about, or Dawson area residents, let's say it that way, are going to be worried about increasing the population at the school, that we also are likely to have perhaps a larger group of people at the meeting than we might normally, because the bridge to the modulars is going to be up for a vote to approve the additional
Right,
appropriation. So
right.
I, I think if we're not going to change anything, which I'm not saying we should, I just think we ought to be prepared for
Uh-huh.
that possibility, because it did seem likely, based on what was mentioned at the meeting, that we might have quite a few people there who would be negatively perceiving this change.
Right, right. Well, let me just raise this idea in response to this discussion we just had about Dawson. Again, we finished in 4 meetings, which felt very quick um, because this needs to because of the timeline for the select board meeting, and then the December 9th planning board meeting. Um, just a thought that just occurred to me was, um, if we wanted to make some change tonight to try to address the Dawson issue, um, would we'd have to convince the chair of the Board of Selectmen to have a special meeting like Monday night, this coming Monday night. Whether he would do that, I have no idea. Um, we could do an online Zoom meeting or something. Um, which we are permitted to do. I have no idea if that how that would go over. Um, but it's I suppose it's a possibility. We could revisit our list. I just want to throw that out there because it's on my mind. Um, any thoughts about that?
I think no matter what you do, people are going to be unhappy.
Very true.
I think
Yeah. Human nature being what it
I,
is.
I'm looking up the current enrollment figures.
Mm-hmm.
This is mass.edu.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm seeing probably an average of 80 kids per grade,
Mm-hmm.
um, per school for each of the elementary schools.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, if we're saying it's going to be between a 50 and 100% increase, I get it. I really do, and but I think our backup is if they have to build a wing anyway or redistrict, and
Right.
I think
Right.
people, like I started the statement, people are going to be unhappy.
True. Very true. Um, so, one option. So I mean, I do think, we could mention that this does bring up that issue, and and perhaps the Board of Selectmen would want to think about a timeline for starting to consider that issue, of, a wing or a new school or whatever. Um,
Well, I think the Board of Selectmen should think about choosing one part of town over another. I think they should carefully think about that, because the alternative would be to say, we're going to accommodate the Dawson parents because they're here, and we're going to put the whole 50 acres in Jefferson. And I think it would be important. It would be, if I were an elected person, I would like the idea that we discussed of spreading around. I would not
Mhm.
choose to pick on one part of town and
Mhm.
then try to pit the populations against each other. I don't think there's anything to be gained by that, and I think we were thoughtful in this group
Mhm.
about thinking that way.
Right. And
It is
Elizabeth,
attractive. We all liked the idea of Holden Trap Rock, 50 acres, do that, do it in one place, but we discussed it,
right,
and
right,
there were reasons to try to talk about multiple locations and not one big one.
right.
And I can see, having been a PTA mom, I can see this devolving, the battling PTAs.
Yes, yes,
It's I think it's a risk, but
right,
again,
right,
that's not our
right.
charge, but I think it's a risk to go
Mm-hmm.
and say we're going to accommodate one group at the
Mm-hmm.
expense of another.
Mm-hmm. Elizabeth, you mentioned that there's a feeling in Jefferson that sort of a lot of things get kind of um, slapped down in Jefferson or get put in Jefferson. Um, that's something you mentioned that like everything seems to be put in Jefferson and that doesn't necessarily go over so well there.
Yeah, I may have chosen my words incorrectly. It's um, not so much that everything lands in Jefferson, but I think there's a perception sometimes that Jefferson is in fact neglected over the rest of Holden,
Mm-hmm.
historically. And I'm talking about, decades, having been in or associated with this part of town for all of my years.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes it's like the cousin or some other kind of relative to the rest of Holden that has a little bit different
Mm-hmm.
viewpoint about things. And I think that's changed a little bit over time, but
Mm-hmm.
even at a select board meeting, I think it was at the one that some of us were interviewed at, about, there was some question about the water quality again, that this is been ignored for quite some time. It just happens to be in Jefferson, but
Right.
that there's some problems with the water quality along Main Street in Jefferson that have been brought up before. So I think more in general, I think it is just that whole idea that we pick one end of town and it is the western end of town to
Mm-hmm.
to put this in, and it could really raise a lot of concerns, if not from Jefferson residents themselves, from even the rest of the people in the town who are trying to get down Main Street in the morning. Because even though people will choose alternate routes, it still is likely to increase volume considerably if all the units are zoned there and even a portion of them, a good portion of them get built eventually.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. All right. I mean, we didn't, we had originally talked about there were a couple spots over in, more the, what is it, the, um, Mayo area, I think. Um, but we didn't end up settling on those. I can't quite remember why at the moment. Um, did people have any thoughts about that?
Off of memory, there was the River Street, which was across from the old landfill. There was
Right.
the one on Malden, which was Chapter 61,
Uh-huh.
and there was the radio towers.
Right. Yes. All of
That's
which,
off of memory. There might have been one or two more.
yeah, no, that sounds about right. Let's see here. Um, yeah, I remember that. Um, the the one on Malden Street, I don't know if the whole thing was ag land, agricultural land.
It
Um,
was.
it was? Okay. All right. All righty. Well, all right. So, all right. So are we then settled on taking our plan and getting out there to defend it? Um, thoughts?
From the standpoint of traffic on Main Street,
Mm-hmm.
20 of the acres are 22 of the acres are south of Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
So if I don't know what percentage of people would be driving into Worcester. That's already a significant amount that would not be using Main Street. And we spoke about it for Trap Rock. There is appeal to people who work in Leominster. You can take back roads. You can, if you work in like the Spencer area, I know there's manufacturing facilities over there. There's, it's, I don't think 100% of the people are going to be taking 122 down through the center of Holden to get to,
Mhm.
I don't know, wherever in Worcester.
Right, and Elizabeth, you mentioned that on Trap Rock that a lot of people in Jefferson take Mount Pleasant Street.
Yeah, I think a lot of people from Ocam, Rutland, Barry,
Mhm.
who are coming in that the farthest parts of Jefferson in that area to do cut over different back ways to get either to Worcester or points north by coming down Mount Pleasant. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So it sounds like, yes, go ahead, Victor. I'm sorry.
Um, in terms of kind of maybe defending this proposal from a traffic perspective, I think I know the answer to this, but is there any way we could get like a traffic study done?
Interesting.
Not
Peter's
between
gonna,
now and then.
Exactly, Al. Not within this timeline, no.
I
yeah.
mean, the last time Central Mass ran a count that I'm aware of, Main Street in round numbers, we're looking at 20,000 vehicles a day, ditto on Shrewsbury Street. And traffic engineers will tell you that during the two peak hours of the day, you're likely to see 10% of that traffic. So you're looking at 2,000 cars during the peak 2 hours on Main Street, which exceeds the capacity of Main Street. A traffic lane is usually good for about 1,200 vehicles an hour, and that's allowing it to flow during the entire hour, not being stopped by traffic signals. So, point being, as everyone well knows, when you're going south on 122A into Holden Center at 8:30 in the morning, you're backed up for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cycles of the traffic light. And
Right.
that means that the intersection is failing in terms of traffic engineering. The bright spot is studies have repeatedly shown that when that happens, motorists either find alternate routes or they find alternate times of travel, and they do not add to the congestion quite as much as one would perhaps like to predict. And the other thing is that multifamily typically during the peak hour generates about a half a vehicle a unit. So if my mental gymnastics here is correct, if we're putting 720 units, no, not, how much we got on Trap Rock? We got 48 acres, right? At
We
15,
put 28 acres there.
28 acres. At one at 15 units,
400.
400. Okay, you're liable to generate
Roughly.
200 vehicles
Mhm.
during the peak hour compared to 20,000, which
Mhm.
isn't a huge percentage. Now, I know people aren't going to believe that, but they're either going to have to go with it or they're going to have to wait for a much longer period for a traffic study.
Well,
Right.
the Starbucks proponent did a little traffic study, updating I think the one that was based on 2019 data, but there was very old data that was informing the most recent traffic study. And according to Starbucks, there won't be any traffic on Main Street. So I'm not sure that's super reliable, but that should be in the planning board materials from the Starbucks proposal.
Oh, good point. That's really, thank you. Can't hurt to look at it, right? Can't hurt to look at it and see what they had to say, even if we're somewhat skeptical.
Yeah. Well, it also takes 52 seconds for a car to get through a drive-through. So take it
Right.
for the purpose it was intended was I think different.
The
Right.
other thing is if you're putting these uh if you're putting these zones on like side streets, it's still going to flow to Main Street, and the side streets are significantly less capable of handling traffic than the Main Street. And as a percentage increase, it's going to be much more drastic.
Interesting. Good point. Good point. Yeah. So, yeah, there's no perfect solution to traffic, that's for sure. But Al, you make a good point that it may not be as bad as people think it will be. Um, so Anyway, well, we've got what we've got.
Linda, can I
And
ask?
yeah.
By the
Can I ask?
time
Go ahead.
Trap Rock
Oh,
gets
sorry.
developed, we'll have flying cars.
Well, that's that too. That's all at full build out, and Lord knows how long that would take. Can
The
I
Central
ask?
Mass Rail Trail will be done.
Yeah. Is it possible to adopt a strategy of providing the select board your proposal, providing them the data for putting it all on Trap Rock, and saying, we support option, our committee support recommends option A. Here's option B. You can only pick one and leave it up to the select board to choose which one they want to send to the planning board. Is that something that could be done? Or, because I know it sounded like he wanted to do two proposals and let the town decide. But obviously, from what Peter's saying, it doesn't sound like there's time to do that. And I tend to agree with him.
The proposal that you've already voted has gone through the select board and they voted to send it to the planning board. So that's being advertised. I think the ad probably went in today,
Mm-hmm.
or the script. It'll probably be published next week.
Okay, I didn't catch that. So, all right, that's good to know.
No,
Thank
that's
you.
okay.
Okay.
And but
Yep.
theoretically, if you wanted to present something else and the select board considered it at their next meeting, there is an outside possibility that they could then send that as a secondary alternative, however you want to phrase it or figure it out, to the planning board. If the planning board held a special meeting, which they may not, and even probably wouldn't, but
Right.
if they did, this is all theoretical, you could probably get both of those back in time for them both to appear on the warrant when the select board sets the warrant.
Why would we want to do that when we've spent 3 or 4 meetings trying to come up with our best possible solution?
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason we're even talking about this is at the behest of one individual selectman.
Right. Good point. Good point. Right. I mean, that one individual selectman will have a lot of influence with the Dawson families. I can tell you
Of course
that.
he will. He'll be out there running up and down the streets to get him to town meeting. And let's not beat around the bush here. I never do.
Right.
But be
Mhm.
that as it may, we've
Mhm.
come up with what we've come up with. Is there a better
Right.
solution in our collective opinion here tonight?
I haven't heard one yet. So, one thing that's frustrating is that we did end up having a relatively short period of time. So, but it is what it is. And I mean, I sort of, well, let me just double check. Do people want to move forward, keep moving forward with what we've already done?
I agree with
Yeah.
that.
Okay, I see Victor saying thumbs up, Mary Jude saying thumbs up. This is an informal vote at the moment. Al, it sounds like you're a thumbs up.
Yes, there it
Thank
is.
you. Good. Thank you. Elizabeth's a thumbs up. Okay. Okay, looks like
Yeah.
everybody or virtually everybody is, I think everybody actually. No, James? Okay, thumbs up. All right. Alrighty, so let's rock and roll. So then we need to talk about our community outreach plan. And we are definitely going to have a good community outreach plan for Dawson. I'll tell you that. So, do we want to start there? Or is that too, do we want to ease into it? What do people think? Well, why don't we just start there? Because that is going to be the toughest nut to crack. Ron, do you have any thoughts about that?
Yeah, so we have done some work. I actually looked at what we did in Princeton, and apparently we didn't assist them with their community outreach, but we did some work with Sutton and a couple other communities on their bylaw. And there's a lot of good materials that were put together. Obviously, what we did with the other towns, we had a lot more time to work with. And there was a lot more getting community feedback on how the law was going to be drafted. So there's a lot of questions about the types of buildings and stuff like that. But we can, my thought is looking at the materials we have, we could very easily put together a survey that could run, that could go online as soon as early December, after the holiday. And where we can start to gather some feedback on people about what their concerns are, maybe get some idea of what people's misconceptions or conception of this law is and what it's going to be, and then use that to inform having. I would probably recommend having an open house kind of forum because again, with the time constraints, we're not really asking people to give us their ideas for how it'll work because we won't have time to change it between now and February. But we can at least get people talking about it. We can get people to tell us what they're concerned about. We can see if we can answer some of those concerns. And then maybe even help trying to gauge how people are going to respond to it at town meeting and try to anticipate it before we get there. So those are sort of my initial thoughts. Whether or not we have one open house or two open houses, I'm thinking in January is when we would have to have it. Really depends on how easy it is to get a location or to host something like that.
Right.
It's not really short notice at this point, but it would have to be something where we'd have to be able to get it fairly quickly and inexpensively. And also in terms of getting the word out to individuals, we've leveraged a lot of different techniques. We've done mailings before. They tend to be very expensive, so it'd be kind of hard to do a direct mailing. But we have also leveraged other direct communications from institutions in the community. So if there's a newsletter for one of the schools, we might be able to put a link to it in their newsletter if it goes out in December or January. If there's listservs for the community, if there's Facebook groups that are not already hostile to the plan, we might be able to tack on to some of those. I don't know if there was one time I remember we did, there was a notice, I think it was a tax bill that the town was sending out, and we were able to stuff those envelopes with little postcards that took people to, this is when the open house is going to be, this is where the survey is going to be, try to get the word out that way. So there's a few strategies that we could do. It really just depends on what the capacity of the town is, if there's anything coming up, if there's anything we can leverage to help us get the word out more.
Okay. Those all sound like good ideas. What do people think? Do we want to do all of those things? Or let's see, so one would be to put a survey online where we can get feedback about people's concerns and misconceptions and use that to inform our outreach. Community forum, Peter, I remember you did community forums for the road project. I remember you did 2 of them, right? So the ideas are a survey, community forum, and leveraging newsletters, listservs, Facebook groups, etc. Do people want to do? So let me ask, what do people think about the survey idea?
I like it a lot.
You do? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I like everything that Ron proposed,
Okay,
to be
great.
honest.
Oh, good. Anyone see things differently and have some concerns about the survey idea?
I think the idea of the survey is good. I would want to know what it was going to look like. Is it a ranking the way Paxton had done it, or is it more fleshed out to try to, what Ron was saying, get at what are the issues that people really need answers to or to be educated about, where I think there's still some group of people who thinks that we don't have to do this. So I think the education component would be really important, as well as getting some clarity. Again, you're never going to get a good population. It's skewed to the people who like to do these things, but at least you get some sense of particular questions if we can form it in that way, rather than just sort of a checking boxes kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I agree with Mary Judy. I think the focus of the survey should be about trying to gather what people are concerned about with this proposal, not necessarily just getting do they support it or not, or
Right,
something like that.
right.
Just try and understand what are the concerns that we need to address between the end of the survey and town meeting.
Mhm.
And then the other thought I had was, I'm not super familiar with town events, but are there some large town events during the holidays where we could advertise
Hmm.
the existence of the survey and, I mean, the proposal as well, of course. And then also just let people know that we plan on having this kind of forum eventually in January.
That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. Ron, do you have an example? I think you said you had an example of a survey. Is that right?
Yes, let me see if can I share my screen. I think I can. Give me 1 second here. First, let me make sure I've got it up. Um, sorry, give me 1 second. I had it up and then I closed it.
Yeah, the only other thought I'm having is, do we want to do like presentations to different boards and committees that
Mhm.
have a certain amount of gravitas in town, and we can
Mhm.
convince them to support the proposal?
Yes, yes, yes. Do people like that idea? I'm not hearing yay, nay, or
I like that
I-
idea, though. I'm
for
curious
that,
as
yeah.
to which boards would be the ones that have the gravitas. I think I like the way you put that, but that have the influence.
I think the more outreach you can do, the better.
yes, I agree. I agree. Okay,
Sorry.
so which boards have the gravitas? Um, Any thoughts about that?
Is there a way we can approach the school committee again? I know it's only Holden, so it's not like we'd want to see if we can get an invitation to a school committee meeting, and
Well,
because you're going to have representatives from the other towns thinking we don't necessarily need to explain this to them, but I'm just wondering from the school perspective if there's a way, or maybe it is the PTAs or
Mhm.
something like that,
Mhm.
to try to get to parents across
Yep,
the different school districts school regions within the town.
right. Well, I mean, I'm certainly happy to ask. I mean, they didn't want to weigh in on this proposal. Um, they were willing to provide data, but they didn't feel it was their place to weigh in terms of locations, et cetera. But that would certainly be something we could do. Um, let's see, we could ask anyway.
So I
And
just wanted to show
oh,
this
great.
was one of the one sheets that we put together for the town of Sutton,
Mhm.
showing kind of what is the law, why is it important, why is it required, a link to the information. These are just one sheets that we handed out at community events. They were left at libraries, they were left at schools.
Mhm.
That led people to the survey and presented some information about where the district was going to be and what the impact could be at full build out and why it was important.
Mhm.
Sorry, give me 1 second here.
Okay.
We also produced, um, this was a postcard that we had sent out, which was just about the community survey. Again, this
Uh-huh.
is the one we were doing a direct mailing, but we could produce something similar to this that we could potentially attach to it, or again, it's something we could leave to hand out to get information. We also have a ability to post some of this information on an online format via platform on our mapping software.
Mhm.
Um, and this was what the survey looked like. It's pretty long because again, it was trying to get information on
Mhm.
um, how they should shape the bylaw. So there's a lot of this that we probably wouldn't need. But again, it's looking for demographic information,
Mhm.
asking about what the urgent needs are,
Mm-hmm.
which types of elements are important for the families district. There was a bit of a preference survey where they were asking people what types of multifamily housing would be most appropriate. But again, this is like before they had gotten to the bylaw written and the site selection process.
Right.
Then there was this one that I thought could be particularly, which was, regarding future development, which are you most concerned about? These are the kinds of questions that I was thinking we could kind of pull out and expand on and generate a survey that tried to get at what people's initial concerns and maybe try to flag some opportunities for that could be brought with new development.
Mm-hmm.
So this is just the PDF version. We have a hosting platform where we do it online.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yeah.
have in the past
Mm-hmm.
but printed them. The limitations of printing them tend to be that you need a lot of time to do that because you have to put them out there, you have to
Yes.
collect them,
Yes.
people have to pick them up, you have to input them by hand.
Right.
So given the time constraints, we wouldn't be able to do a print version, I don't
Right.
think.
No. Mm-mm. I think you're right. Do people agree that we wouldn't have time to do that? We could put a QR code to it in the landmark, or there's that new newspaper, Wachusett News or whatever it's called.
Mhm.
We could do it that way, or put the link or QR code or whatever people use to make it as easy as possible without handing people a paper survey.
Mhm.
The only thing I can think about is the senior center. I wonder if it would make sense to give them a paper survey, or to give them a link or a QR code. Um, what are people's thoughts about that? That would just be a portion of the people, but at least we would make sure we got some of their input. Um, any thoughts about that?
We could definitely put a box. Usually what we would do when we have those is we would take some printed surveys and we would take a box and we'd put it in the location, let people fill it out at the spot. Usually
Mhm.
we'll do that at senior centers or libraries.
Mhm.
It might be doable if we were limiting it to just one location. So that way, if we got,
Yep.
if just by some happenstance,
Right.
every single version, every single copy got filled out,
Mhm.
we would have time to actually input the data into something usable.
Right.
But we could definitely look into that. That's
I mean,
definitely
one
something we
thought I
could
had was
consider.
I thought I could go to the weekly um, Friday morning breakfast that they have, and just pass it out and then collect it at the end of the breakfast. That was a thought that I had. Um, I'd be happy to do that.
Mhm.
Uh, what do people
Okay,
think?
that's an interesting idea.
Yeah, just because I
Was
want to make sure we get,
was that the senior center?
yeah, that's a thought. What do you think?
I talked to the director. They have a kind of a strict policy about not politicking or campaigning there. I'm not sure if this would be the same or not,
Right.
but we'll
Anthony Renzoni
Great.
and the Republican Town Committee held a meeting and spoke against the MBTA Communities Act
Well, first of
compliance.
all, why are members of the
Senior
committee,
Center.
why are members
Oh,
who are not members of the committee, why are people speaking if they weren't recognized
right.
to
Yeah,
start with?
technically we don't, technically this is, the discussion's just for the committee.
But more importantly, just
Yes.
to address that question, a political group can rent the senior center or use the senior center. What I'm saying is you can't go when the senior center is having an event during daylight hours and
Mhm.
go there and campaign. That's the rule that they have.
Right. Well, could we talk to the director, Karen Phillips, about actually, Elizabeth and I are on, well, I'm on the liaison to the Council on Aging, and Elizabeth, you are a member of the Council on Aging. And I'm wondering, I had mentioned that we were working um, on this project, and that, I'd report back about our progress at the last meeting. So we could bring it up then. Elizabeth, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that might be a good opportunity. The next council meeting is what, 2 weeks from yesterday, I think. So,
Yeah.
and I've talked to the chairperson about it being, making sure we have, or the MBTA Communities Act has a little bit of time on the agenda to inform at least the board members what been
Mhm.
going on. So that would still be enough time probably for us to also ask Karen if it's appropriate to get into an upcoming Friday
Mhm.
morning coffee hour to see if we could present.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. And we would just, we would just present our plan. And yeah, we just present our plan and just um, um, explain our reasoning for it, and address any questions that might come up, you know?
Right.
Um,
And she would definitely be quick to give an opinion as to whether or not she thought it would be appropriate. So if it really doesn't fall within the parameters that they prefer to keep, then
mhm.
we'll know clearly that time we ask. So I
Okay,
think it's worth asking.
okay, great. Thank you. Peter, what do you think about that? Is that all right?
I agree completely. I was just throwing it out there so you know.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. All righty, good. Let's see, what else? Um, all righty. Let's see. Okay, so, um, okay, so, all right, so senior center, um, okay, council on aging, senior center, okay. Um, so Peter, a thought just occurred to me. I wonder if you could, I can't do this because I can't have people express opinions that are not as part of a meeting. But you could send out an email or, to the whole committee and just say, um, what organizations should we be reaching out to? And have people reply to you or to Wendy or Abby, and then forward forward that, or make a list of it. Um, would that be something you feel that your office could do?
Organizations like committees, you mean, that are boards and
Yeah,
commissions,
yeah.
or
Mm-hmm. I'm thinking asking this group to give you their input about what boards or committees they think would be most important. Um, and then you make a list. Would that work?
I I would be happy to. Just to give you some background, generally,
Mm-hmm.
most boards and committees don't get involved in issues that aren't directly before them when we've asked in the past in a similar sort of circumstances.
Okay,
So
okay.
just for your information.
All right, okay. Well, let's see. Well, why don't we spend a few more minutes here making a list? And then people can think about it and send you the, uh, send you their suggestions. But my philosophy is always it can't hurt to ask. Right? What's the worst they can do? They can say no. And so,
I remember last
mhm,
winter I went to some kind of uh Santa Claus parade thing
mhm,
in the center.
mhm.
Could we hand out flyers there?
Why
Is
not?
that like, does that have a good amount of people? I'm just trying to think of like events or places with high foot traffic.
Mhm,
I mean, mostly we want to spread the word and get as much feedback as we can for the survey,
mhm,
so
mhm.
that we can respond to people's concerns.
Right,
I think
right.
that's the first step.
Hmm. Is it Jingle Mingle or something like that? Is that what it is, Peter? Or
No, that's Friday night. Saturday night is the arrival of Santa Claus, usually, along with several other, smaller events that happen around town.
mm-hmm,
Um, as someone who's done this his entire life of imposing themselves at events,
uh-huh.
you have to just be a little careful. If people are there with their kids and they want to enjoy Santa and you're giving them flyers and, yeah, it's just gently, I mean,
You're
Uh-huh.
losing
it's
them
like,
from step one. Yeah.
just if it's the wrong environment, every politician will tell you you don't ever go to a bingo game when seniors are there, when the bingo's going, because you just, it's like a death wish. And even though there's a ton of people there and they're a captive audience, you don't ever interrupt. So
Yeah, that's fair.
it's up to you. Just feel it out.
Right, right. Yes, yes, okay. Um, Yes.
What's the foot traffic like at town hall? Could you hand out the flyers there?
On at the event.
No, just in general at town hall. Could you have like a
Uh,
little stand with just flyer that people could pick up?
if it's like right around the deadline for tax, when taxes are due, you'll have a lot of foot traffic, and any other normal given day, you'll be sitting there by yourself most of the time.
Okay. Could we just put it on a table, like near the clerk's office? There's
Oh
one.
yeah.
Okay, great. Terrific. Can't hurt to try. And we can put a QR code or whatever link on it, etc. Okay, great.
If maybe, once, I know we're talking about the survey now, but
Mhm.
if we succeed in getting a few responses to a survey with some areas of concern, I'm just wondering if we could then quickly put together a little one pager that's a more of a
Mhm.
Q&A based on what those concerns were,
Mhm.
and maybe have those at town hall, but also have a link to it on like the town Facebook page or something along those
Yes.
lines,
Yes.
so that if people care to read, they have, and again, make it kind of succinct and easy for people to see that we really were trying to respond directly to people's concerns.
Right, right. Yes. Yes. That makes a lot of sense. Yes, go ahead.
Elizabeth mentioned Facebook. I mean, do we know the big Facebook groups? We should definitely post the link to the survey on that. I don't know them.
Oh, there's Wachu Chat. There's Mountaineer Mamas. Trying to think of the other ones. Those are the two that off the top of my head.
Those are the two that come to mind for me, and it might be worth floating it to their administrators to see if they would let us, because again, there's some fairly strict rules about that kind of stuff on both those sites, I believe, but
Mhm.
it's worth asking again.
Right, can't hurt to ask, right?
I could try to get into that. I know who the admins are, at least on Watch Your Chat, and just see if there's an opening for that kind of thing.
Terrific, that's great. Thank you. Let's see. Okay.
Is there going to be any point where the town is allowed to just voice their concerns? Is the best solution going to be us sit at a table and get yelled at?
I'm
Because that's going
anticipating
to happen
getting
sooner or later.
yes, yeah, I'm anticipating getting yelled at.
Oh, you're on the board, so
Yeah. I know I asked for it.
Why you
you're,
get the
you're
big
getting
bucks,
paid. You're
Linda?
getting paid to yell at.
Oh,
No.
$1,000. It's $1,000 a year. Okay. And let me tell you, the counseling I'm going to need after all this is going to be a
I
lot more
just
expensive.
I think hiding, or not hiding, that's the first word that came to mind. I think doing online, I think doing surveys and handwritten, I think that's one thing, but I think what we're gonna have to do is just listen to people, the actual people, not the people who are just gonna vote no, no matter what we decide.
Mhm.
We're just gonna have to let them speak 30 seconds each. What's
Yep.
your concern? What would make it better? And if we limit it to 30 seconds and
Mhm.
an hour, I think we can take it.
Right, right. They may want to talk longer than 30 seconds.
Cut the mic off.
Okay, well, let's figure that out as we go.
Well, I
I
think
just
James is right. We definitely need to do that. I just
Yes.
think we need to spread the word first, or else no one's going to show
Mhm.
up to that meeting
Right,
except
right.
for,
Yes.
half a dozen people who are all against the proposal.
Right. One the group I think we need to talk to the PTAs in each group, in each school. Does that make sense? Yeah, we're gonna, that to me would be a thing to do. I don't know how active they are these days. It depends on the school. Um, but maybe the school committee folks can help us with that.
I mean, would Mayo be on that list as well, just to see the stomach for rezoning as well? I think that's going to have to be a conversation of
Yeah.
if it does get rezoned, if that's the best path forward, and if that makes
Well,
people happy.
I have to think, I don't know how heavily we wanted to lean into that because again, Dawson may not end up not or the hosted site may not end up with that many kids.
Mhm.
The Bailey Road and Reservoir Street site would end up with more, most likely, I think. Um, so, um, let's see. So, I don't know. I mean, that I don't, we just think about that. We need to think about that. And, um, yeah, we just think about that. So, and we may need to bring it up. I just have to think, we should discuss it more. We should discuss it more, if that makes sense.
I would just throw out there that I think that I think it will be important to frame this as, these numbers are what the maximum capacity of these sites could be, and
Mhm.
it's not just no guarantee, it's not even particularly likely that they're all going to be built out with that number of units. It's not like they're all of a sudden within 5 years, every single unit that it could possibly hold is going to be built on that. There's
Mhm.
going to be a long lag time between that, and making sure people know that this isn't going to be a sudden,
Right. Yes.
like a
Yes.
sudden thing, is
Yes.
important. There was a thumbs down there though from Al. So,
No, I was actually putting my thumb down. No,
oh,
it,
about
it,
what
it,
about?
it's picking up unintended signals here.
Okay.
I'll
Okay.
keep my hands below the table. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I was like, oh, you disagree with that? It's going to be, well, you think it's going to be built out that quickly? But I do think that it would be, you want to try to stay on message and not bring in things that could open up unnecessary cans of worms. That's just my thought about it. I would be
Yeah. Yeah.
scared to think about trying to say that we're going to have to rezone
Yeah.
any of the schools at this point, because it would be easier to rezone the zone that you passed this year than it would be to rezone the schools. You could always redo this zone that you passed today, that you're
Ah,
passing in February. It's not
tell
like
tell
once
us.
it's on paper, it's there
Mhm.
forever.
Tell us more about that.
Well, if you pass the bylaw
Mhm.
and the map,
Mhm.
and it turned out that it wasn't working, for
Mhm.
whatever reason,
Mhm.
you could always propose to change the mapping and put it in a
Okay.
different location. There's no reason why you couldn't change the zoning bylaw.
Ah, that's really good to know. I wasn't sure how
Yeah.
that worked with, I mean, we have to get something approved by the Attorney General, right?
Yeah, it would still have to be compliant with
Right.
chapter 3A, but you do the same process again. You could just go back and say, well, let's put it
Mhm.
all on Trap Rock. It didn't work out. This is what, for whatever reason. It could always be moved. So I don't know that you would necessarily be talking about moving
Mhm.
school boundaries versus moving, when
Right.
you could change the zone at some point
Right.
if people really were unhappy with it.
Right. And we also could perhaps take one out of Dawson and put it in the Mayo catchment area. If if we'd had more time, maybe we could have agreed on a Mayo catchment area location. Maybe we could have found one. Um, but anyway, it is what it is. So that's an excellent. So do we have to have that approved by the Attorney General again?
You go through the
Yes.
same process. It's just like any zoning. You can rezone,
Mm-hmm.
but you just have to go through the process. So you can do the
Right.
same thing with this.
Right. Right.
And the
Okay.
important thing of this exercise is to make sure that you're getting something down now, so
Mm-hmm.
that the state isn't coming in 6 months and doing
Mm-hmm.
it for you. Because that's
Exactly.
probably what would happen.
Right. 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 And my thought is the legal mechanism for that would be I'd hate to say this, but the Attorney General would sue us and then a judge could appoint a special master uh, as part of equitable relief. Is that about right? How that process would work? Yeah, that's something I personally think we should really try to avoid. Um, so
Yeah,
anyway,
the Milton case proved, and I'm quoting from a law firm's write-up of it, that the AG can use injunctive relief and equitable authority to enforce the law.
yep,
So
exactly.
not only would we automatically lose those few grants which are specifically mentioned in the law, which really have no moment for Holden to a great extent, but clearly the AG can inject that office into our affairs pretty much at will if we fail to comply with it.
That's right,
And then
exactly.
we have to defend it, whether their interference is reasonable, legal or not. We nevertheless have to defend ourselves against whatever they decide to do.
Right, right. Or yeah, yeah. It would not be good. It would not be good. So we have to do something. Okay, so alrighty. Let's see. Um, okay, so
May I
oh,
ask, in
yes.
terms of timing for doing in-person meetings of some kind, either an open house or, just a forum for where people can take questions, however you want to do it. Uh, how much lead time would we need in order to get a location? Is the senior center a place where
Yes.
we could get a spot at a relatively quick turnaround?
Yeah.
And so, okay, so it's not something we necessarily have to decide right now,
No.
whether, because it's not like it's booked out 2 months in advance. So, okay.
No, sometimes I don't know. It is a busy place, but I think
We
they're
could generally get it. I mean,
mm,
even if there's a committee meeting there, we can bump them for this if we really need to. But as long as there's not a larger event that's been planned and so they've sold invitations to or something, but that's fairly rare. We should be able to get. If not, we could probably different ways we could get a school. We get Dawson. You could go right to have it in the gym. They'll have the
yes.
gallows built right outside next to the modulars, right after the meeting. But no,
I think we should I think we should hold
there's
it.
other spots that we could get,
Peter, I think
definitely.
we should hold it in the modular, and I think we should make sure to walk across the connector in the rain. Sorry, I'm just hearkening back to some feedback we've gotten about the Dawson connector and the need for some sort of structure over it, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, stop with all this frivolity. Um, um, all right. All right. Another group I was thinking of was uh, the Wachusett Chamber of Commerce. It's not all Holden people, but Holden has a good representation there. So, yeah, we could do that. Um, so,
I
would
can
you?
talk to the chamber to see if they'd be interested.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Mary Jude. That would be terrific. Thank you. All right. So, Mary Jude, I'm happy to reach out to Lauren Salmon Garrett on the school committee. She's chair of the school committee, and then see if there are any issues with us just reaching out directly to the PTAs. Um, so, all right, great. Well, anyway, I mean, there are a lot of different ideas for this, so it would be helpful, I think, if everyone could just send Peter some ideas and if you will volunteer to be part of it. I'm happy to do anything with the schools and, the senior center, etc. Seniors in general. It'd be nice if people could join me. I'd really appreciate it, especially when I go to Dawson. Who lives in the Dawson catchment area? Mary Jude, you do? Who else? Peter, you do? Oh, Peter. Put your helmet on, Peter. Victor, where do you live?
I don't know the school districts, but I live on Bullard Street and wow, I'm blanking the cross street name.
Okay.
Oregon Trail.
That's Mayo, I think, or is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
I'm
Mayo.
walking distance to Mayo, so I'm pretty sure
Yeah.
it's Mayo.
Yes. James, how
I'm
about
also Mayo.
your Mayo? Okay, my son went to Mayo. Okay, so you guys are with Mayo. So would you mind coming with me to the PTA, either of you, if we end up arranging that? Do either of you have kids yet? If you don't mind me asking. Not yet?
Yeah, I have two, and the third is on the way.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wonderful. Congratulations. So,
Thank you.
all right.
All right,
So,
James, it is then.
okay.
Yeah, just give me a date and time. I can
Okay.
I can try and make it work. It's just down the
Okay.
street. I can walk through the woods.
Okay, okay. And since we didn't put anything there, there still are woods. Anyway. Um, so let's see. Okay, so that's Mayo. So, um, I don't,
Linda,
Will's,
I'm happy to help with the schools and, you know, and wherever
oh,
it is that, and the seniors, like you said. I
Oh,
did
fabulous.
have one other thing. And again, I'm not having good technology night. So about 10 minutes ago, I had to leave and come back, though it was pretty quick.
Okay. Yeah.
I was going to ask, did it come up about the newspaper, the Wachusett Free Press, or the one that's coming out? What is it, like every 2 weeks, or maybe is it once a month right now? They had done the piece on the Prop 2.5 override. It was an article
Mhm.
co-written by Paul Challenger, and I was just wondering if we could ask them to put something in
Yes.
a January edition.
Yeah, good idea. Yeah.
I don't know who would write it, you know, how we want to structure that, but if at least I can
Right.
reach out to them and just see what the prospects are of getting something in print.
That would be great.
Okay.
Fabulous. And I'm happy to help with writing. Um, okay, all right.
To that point, I mean, are we definitely need some literature soon, right? Some one
Mhm.
pagers and whatnot. Is Ron, are you gonna work on the survey and the one pager? I think that's all we need right now.
Yeah, so what I was about to say, well, two things. I actually have to jump off very soon. I have a hard stop. But what I can work on is pulling together a draft of the survey, probably the most. This might actually be a Peter question. I know this is an advisory committee. You are posting the meetings, right? Would there be any open meeting issues for me to have to circulate the draft questions this week? Or
Uh,
would we need to discuss it in a meeting for them to have any feedback on the questions?
I think if you're just as long as everyone individually emails you their thoughts on it, it wouldn't have an OLM issue.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Don't email each other. Do not reply all or anything. Just email Ron. Um,
Okay.
so-
Yeah, we can do that then. Because I should be able to pull something together Monday or Tuesday, and or probably by Monday because I forgot it's Thursday. I keep thinking it's Friday.
I know.
Wishful
I have
thinking.
I've I have some survey experience as well. So I'd be
Okay.
happy to, if you want to bounce ideas off of me or whatever, I think that
Yeah,
would
so
be
what I was going to do is I was gonna essentially use the model that we used in Sutton. I was going to pull some questions out of that, work with my colleague who put that together to flesh it out a little bit, and then put it into a format that we can circulate. So that way, by the time we get to the other side of Thanksgiving, we can just get it posted, and then it'll just be a matter of throwing together a one-page
Mhm.
sheet with a QR code that we can do a PDF of, and we can
Mhm.
share it with you guys. And then
Okay.
we can print out as many. I'll probably want to do it as a regular 8.5 by 11, just because we can print those in the office, and I
Mhm.
can just get them all. I can do them in batches rather than having to send them out to get printed,
Right, right.
which we have
Okay,
to do for postcards.
right. Okay. Sounds good. Why don't we talk about a timeline? Um, actually one more quick thing. We talked about newsletters. I assume do we want to try to put things in newsletters? Like I know the senior center has a newsletter, for example. Um, are there other newsletters around town? Well, definitely the senior center newsletter. And we can think about whether there are others. If you think of other newsletter ideas, send them to Peter and hopefully he can send them to me. Is that all right, Peter? Okay, cool. All right. All righty. So, um, t- 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 all right. Okay, so newsletters, what else? Okay. I'm just looking back at the suggestions Ron had. So survey, community forum, newsletters, even putting it in the tax bill. I don't know if that's feasible. Would that be a possibility, Peter? I don't know when
Not sure.
okay, all right. Let's see, talking with people, town clerk's office. Okay, and then, yeah, okay, I think,
In when I worked in Brookline, we would give flyers out to kids at school to bring to their parents.
Huh.
But I don't know how people would feel about that here.
yeah, I don't know. Uh, those of you who still have kids in school, or James, I guess that's you, because my kid's in college.
Not there yet.
Okay, okay, not there. Oh, okay, they're not there yet. I got it.
They're one
Also,
and three. So
Oh, yeah, unless
not
they're
quite there.
unless they're truly gifted.
I suppose the challenge here too is that the high school serves 5 communities. So
Right, it serves everything, everybody, right? Yes, that's true. Yes. Um, so, um, we could make the argument that it would be less traffic, that there, not putting everything on Trap Rock means there won't be quite as much traffic at the high school. That might be, I don't know. Anyway, so,
Excuse me, Linda, if I could
yes.
suggest, if you're gonna talk to the chair of the school committee,
Yeah.
I would ask her that question. My recollection is that each school has its own policies around flyers going home. I think it's changed a lot over the years.
Yeah.
And in my experience of raising my kids in this district, it was really common and then it became uncommon and it
Mhm.
it kind of depended, I think, on the principal and the ruling bodies of the individual schools if they like allow that kind of thing to go home with kids. So she
Right.
might have an idea of how that's structured now and if it's worth
Right.
exploring it with
Mhm.
the central office or something like that, just so, because it's definitely a worthwhile
Mhm.
effort if we can do it. I'm just not sure
Mhm.
we can.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Alrighty, so let's do a timeline and then
Sorry, Linda, I have to drop off,
okay,
but I will check back with Peter tomorrow
Okay.
to see if there's anything that came after I left. But thank you very much. Appreciate it.
okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
All right, so let's talk about a timeline. All right, so um okay, so the survey sounds like it needs to be done pretty quickly, right? So Ron said he would send us a draft, uh, was it before Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving? Does anyone catch it?
I think his thought was to have the
Understood, Ron.
survey and the 1-page handout done by like immediately after Thanksgiving.
Okay, great.
yeah, I
Okay.
heard 1 week.
Okay, like within 1 week after Thanksgiving.
Should
Great.
be ready. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, so, all right, so I'm gonna look at my calendar. Okay, so Thanksgiving is the 27th. That next Thursday is December 4th. So we could say the week ending, I guess we could say the week ending December 5th. Does that make sense? Or, does that make sense? Does that work for people? Or should I say December 4th? Get it done and then it's done before the weekend if possible.
What's this deadline for?
The survey.
Oh, I got the sense he'd be done with it the Monday after Thanksgiving.
Oh,
Yeah, I
perfect.
think he
Great.
mentioned Monday.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. So Monday after Thanksgiving is December 1st. Okay. Terrific. All right, so good. All right, so the survey's going to go out. It'll generate some buzz. Um, what can we realistically do before the holidays? Before, Christmas holiday or whatever other holiday. I don't know when Passover is exactly. Um, but during that before like the end of December, like say before the 20th. Yeah, Hanukkah's the 15th. Um, so what could we do realistically well, let's say before December 19th, because that's the Friday before. That's the Friday before the 25th. What can we get? Can we do? I know that I'm gonna. Well, Elizabeth and I are gonna meet with the Council on Aging. Do you think? And I also think it is important to get to Dawson right away. Before, um, you know, before things get ugly. um, to generate some positive buzz as opposed to negative buzz. Let's put it that way. Um, so, okay, so can we prioritize? Would it make sense to talk to Dawson before before Christmas? And maybe the other schools? What do people think? I see Victor
I
nodding.
would say Dawson definitely.
Dawson, definitely, yes. What
And
about, yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead, James.
oh, and I was gonna say Davis as well, because as we're zoning it, there's gonna be more units
Yes, okay, so we
for
can try
them.
to do Dawson and Davis Hill at least. Okay, before the 19th. And I might be able to pass out the survey at the, if Karen Phillips lets us, we can pass out the survey before, like not too long after Thanksgiving, I think. Not too long after Thanksgiving. So that would be good. So the senior center and the Council on Aging. And if we can hit Mayo. James, do you think we could go to Mayo before Christmas? Would that work for you?
Certainly could. I didn't know if that would be a priority, but yeah, just let me know when.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. Beautiful. So,
I think once we have the survey in the handout, there's no reason to wait to reach
uh,
out.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, that makes sense.
So
That makes
wait, are you suggesting that you attend a PTO meeting at these school? Because I don't know that
You know,
they're going to be meeting in
would it be the
December.
PTA? I mean, I guess we could talk, I'll talk to Lauren first of all, and maybe one or two other school committee members who have kids in other schools. Um, and um, so, um, and they can tell us what the best way to deal with this, to the best way to approach the schools. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I can also ask them about appearing before school committee. Um, I don't know if they're going to want to do that before the holidays. But right after the holidays might work just fine. I mean, what do people think? Does that make sense? I see you nodding, Peter. So does that make
I
sense?
mean, it's just my guess, and I don't know because I'm not involved in any of the
Mhm.
elementary schools. But I would think that it's probably a very busy time in the last couple weeks before the holidays with
Yeah.
school concerts and everything else that goes along with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but it's definitely something you need to look into, and I guess I just don't think you can do it right now tonight without checking with them first.
Oh, of course, of course. You're absolutely right. Yes. No, I would, of course, we'd always check with them. Yes. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so um, Mary Jude, when do you think you could reach out to the Chamber of Commerce?
I can do that anytime. I can do that this weekend.
Mhm.
As you said, they are more than just Holden,
Right,
but
right. Mhm.
I can ask Jen
Yeah.
Stanovich what her
Okay,
ideas are, if any.
great. I'd be happy to come with you if that would be okay. Um,
I was just gonna call her.
okay, great. No, what I'm saying, oh, you're just gonna call. You weren't gonna go and meet with the whole group.
I'm gonna ask her how she would want to approach
Oh,
that.
okay. All
I
right.
mean,
That sounds good.
they have sort of business after hours kind of things.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't, it's not like business meetings so much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
I would want to find out what she was thinking in terms of what kind of what kind of gatherings
Gotcha.
might
Okay.
exist or not.
Okay, that sounds good. That sounds good. All righty. So, um, great. So that I'll leave that to you then to figure that out. Okay, we're starting to lose people. In fact, do we still have a quorum? Okay, Elizabeth is here, Mary Jude's here, Victor's here, James is here, and I. Yes, we do still have a quorum, but just barely.
I just
Um,
want to throw a
yes.
thought.
Uh-huh.
I feel like this initial round of outreach should mainly be focused not so much on advocating for a proposal, but saying,
Uh-huh.
hey, there is a proposal. We really want to hear from everyone about it. We have this survey that's meant to collect people's concerns, and
Mhm.
we'll hold forums in January
Mhm.
to try and respond to everything we hear from the community.
That makes a whole lot of sense. That makes a whole lot of, so we're gonna, so these meetings will be hearing people's concerns, and then January will be forums.
Yeah,
I think
kind
that
of what I'm
sounds,
thinking.
that makes perfect sense. That makes perfect sense.
And then it helps too, because when we reach out to these organizations, we can tell them, look, I'm not going to come here to make a pitch or anything. I'm just
Mhm.
coming to make an informational announcement type of thing.
Mhm. Okay.
And
Okay.
they are probably going to be more amenable to us doing that than if we come in saying, hey, I want to present in favor of this
I see.
proposal.
Mm-hmm. What do people think about that? James or Mary Jude, Elizabeth?
It sounds good.
Does it? Peter, what do you?
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead, James. Yes?
I think that's the right. I think that's the right attitude. Just
Okay.
expect them to then grab their pitchforks. So
Okay.
you might get their
That's
like a
unavoidable.
minute.
Peter, what are your thoughts about that?
No, that sounds like the perfect plan, honestly. And like I was saying, it's just I don't think you can lay a timeline down or a calendar down just yet until you probably touch base with everyone and the respective groups and
Mhm.
the potential venues and everything else. So I think that works out perfectly because that gives you the time to do that.
Okay. All right. Beautiful. Okay. Great. Okay. Good. So, I will type up what we've done in terms of a timeline and send it to Peter. And then Peter or Wendy or Abby can send it out to everybody and maybe, if it's all right, provide any input to Peter. I understand the purpose of the open meeting law in a general way. I support it. However, it does make some things complicated and a little challenging. So, wouldn't hurt to have a little reform. I don't know when the last time was that they reformed it. But anyway. Um, so, um, all right, great. So, okay, so I'll type up sort of a rough timeline, and send it to Peter, and some things that people have committed to. Send it to Peter, and then Peter can send, or Abby and Wendy can send it out to everybody. Um, and along with the solicitation of other organizations or newsletters, etc. And we'll go from there. Does that make sense? Okay. Now, we had talked about meeting on Monday. My thought is we don't need to at this point. What do people think about that?
Yeah, I think we're all set here.
Okay.
And
I mean, we
agree.
may want to reconvene, after the holiday. Do people want to do that? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Okay.
Yep, that'd be good.
So when do people want to reconvene after the holiday? Want to reconvene on the Thursday after the holiday? Does that sound good? Okay.
Yes.
All right, great. All right. Peter, are you available that day? That night, I should say.
Was just looking it up. I think so, yeah.
Okay, great.
Are we talking about the 4th?
That is, let me make sure I'm available.
It is the fourth, yeah.
It is the 4th. Okay, great. Let's see what's going on the 4th for me. Thing. Oh, that's November 4th. That's silly. December 4th. Okay. I think I'm free. Okay, so sorry. Yep, that works for me too. So, okay, great. So we'll reconvene on December 4th. Hopefully we'll have some minutes by then too that we can review and approve. Just to make sure we get that piece of business done. Great. Okay.
I'm sorry, I may have missed, whatever Ron's work product is, was that something that Wendy was gonna send around? Or is that something that we'll see after Thanksgiving? I kind of lost track.
My understanding is he'd have kind of like a draft that he would circulate to group members by early next week.
Okay, so he'll send us a draft.
Yeah, and then we can
Okay.
send comments to him
For Peter,
on
okay.
it.
Yeah.
But do not reply all. That
Yeah.
would be a violation of the open meeting law. Just reply directly to Ron.
Yeah,
Right.
got it. Thank you.
Right. Right. Okay, great. All righty. All right, this is terrific. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate everyone sticking in here and moving forward on our plan. So thank you.
Move to adjourn.
Oh, yes. Do I hear a-
Seconded.
Okay. All right.
Have a good night.
All in favor?
Thank you.
All
Night.
right. All
Bye.
opposed?
Hey,
Hey, all right.
Good night, everyone.
Fabulous. Okay, take
happy
care.